Hello, so here is my presentation on moving towards student-directed inquiry. How can inquiry change educational paradigms? The main ways I think is just the less teacher control. I think a lot of teachers, especially veteran teachers, are used to using direct instruction only, and letting go of some of that control and putting the learning into the student's hand is very difficult for many people. So having the teacher back off a little more will definitely change the traditional education system. The students feel like they have a purpose because they are given more choice and they do have more control of their learning. So I think that it would motivate students to be at school and feel like they have a purpose to be there and they're learning things that are applicable to their lives. Collaborative is something that we're already moving towards, but in the past it was always independent work or quiet work at your desk, and there wasn't as many group activities involved. So I think it's really good for students at a young age to start using collaborative type learning experiences and really get to know how to work well with the group, how to delegate tasks, and how to take on different roles as a group member. It engages students in critical thinking, and the best part about it is I feel like students don't know that they're even critically thinking when they're doing these fun types of activities. And we did just take a class on critical thinking and how students really need to learn how to critically think. I know a lot of students that I have experience with, they're so used to being given the answers by the teacher that the minute they have a task on their own, they just say, I don't know how to do it, I need help, instead of trying to problem solve. So I think that it's really good to get students out of that habit and start leaving questions more open-ended. If that's what you think and you have evidence to back it up, then that's correct. Instead of just students looking for one specific answer, because then they're always scared to say that they're going to get the answer wrong, or they're more likely to say, I need help, I don't get it. It has high engagement, and the reason why I put statistics too is along with the high engagement, statistically from some of the videos that we watched, is it's improving standardized test scores, which is really important since students are not going to be able to stay away from those. So I think statistically it just makes sense if students are really learning. And I think it was chapter 6 stated that students making their own connections to learning just increases student success and students' ability to learn more information. Okay, so what I thought about this from traditional education is just the linked learning lens, how you were telling us to link it to linked learning. I think linked learning is important because students do find a purpose in what they're learning. Even at a young age, I get well, why are we doing this? And it just gets worse as students get older. They don't understand why they're doing or learning anything. So being able to apply it to real life application is very important for student success because they'll understand it more and they'll understand how this might relate to their future or their careers, etc. It has higher student success. There's so many different kinds of choice of assessments depending on what class that you're doing it in. And I also just feel like students start to practice making all of those connections with each subject area, which is really important. I know for me, teaching all these separate subjects, it doesn't even feel good for me because I know that it's like, okay, now we're switching gears and we're doing this, and now we're switching gears and we're doing this, and it'd be great to just relate everything together. And the times that everything does relate together in my classroom, I notice that the students retain and recall a lot of information. It also is helpful for teachers because it increases our collaboration just among team members and the school and the teachers, and it's good to collaborate with your team and maybe get some new ideas on how to help the students. I asked the question, why are students so engaged in science? Because this is something I think about all the time. My students love science, and when I was growing up, I loved science. And the answer is because it's hands-on, they get it, and then after they're able to tell what they saw or what they did and then what the result was. And I noticed that students always want to be doing a hands-on project-based activity. So it does make sense to switch to a linked learning lens. However, it's obviously hard for teachers to create that. So I think it'll be a slow process, but of course it makes perfect sense why we would want to do that for the students. And lastly, what would this look like with your students and with our school district? I'm currently at a school that has a very low socioeconomic just population, and we have really low student success. They're all English language learners. They're all very far below grade level, and in turn, their parents typically aren't educated, so they just don't really care about school and they don't really think they need to be in school. So I think specifically my school would really, really help with student engagement and students' motivation and in turn their success. If they're motivated to be at school and they're engaged and they're starting to learn more, then I think they'll see more of a purpose for continuing on their educational path and maybe even make valuable connections for their future. I said that students will develop higher motivation and their interest in school and their future. If they can see the connections that this makes to a future career, I think it would be incredibly important for them and really life-changing for them. And one way I was thinking that it would look like is starting with social studies. I wrote this in my discussion post, but Anne Marie's social studies unit was a 4th grade unit in Beryl's book. And I liked that because she started with just like the California regions and the mountain regions because it's a social studies standards, and she built out the unit from there. And I was like thinking about, well, that's a good way for me to start instead of trying to dive into every single content area. So I think that our school could kind of start in a subject area and start creating projects for a content area and then slowly start linking it to other content areas. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done. I think that this is all a great idea, but it kind of makes me think, well, how do you just start it? How do you get it started at your school and in your classroom? So that's kind of where I'm at right now, but I'm hoping next year I can start using some social studies unit. Thanks for watching.